Ladies, let's talk not about being perfect, not about checking all the boxes. Let's talk about being smart and not the know-it-all kind. I'm talking about the kind of smart that walks into a room and doesn't have to say a word and still commands respect. Smart isn't just knowledge, it's presence, it's peace, it's power. And today I'm going to give you 7 rules to become that kind of woman. Let's get one thing straight. Your worth is not up for debate. You don't negotiate your value in the checkout line of someone else's opinion. You don't need someone to tell you you're good enough, smart enough, pretty enough, successful enough. That's a trap, and a smart woman doesn't live in traps. Your worth, it's already established, solid, sealed. You don't have to hustle for it. You just have to know it. See, here's the problem. Too many women are waiting for someone to finally see them, waiting for the right relationship to prove they're lovable, waiting for a promotion to feel important, waiting for compliments to feel beautiful. And when that validation doesn't come the way they hoped, they shrink, they second guess, they play small. That ends now. A smart woman doesn't wait for the world to clap before she walks confidently. She claps for herself. She knows her value, then adds tax, because what she brings to the table isn't just valuable, it's rare. It's not arrogance, it's alignment. It's recognizing that your time, your energy, your presence, those things matter. They have weight. And if someone doesn't see it, that's their limitation, not your deficiency. Let's be real. People treat you based on how you treat you. If you undervalue yourself, others will too. If you accept the bare minimum, you'll keep getting the bare minimum. But the moment you raise your internal standard, the moment you say, I deserve more because I am more, everything around you shifts. Now, I'm not talking about walking around like the world owes you something. I'm talking about walking around like you owe it to yourself to live in truth, not ego, not insecurity, truth. The truth is, you're more capable than you give yourself credit for. You've overcome more than most people know. You've been through storms and still show up. You've doubted yourself and still kept going. That's not weakness. That's grit. That's resilience. That's worth. But listen, if you're constantly looking outside of yourself for someone else to validate you, you're giving away power you were meant to keep. You're outsourcing your confidence. That's like handing someone the keys to your peace and then being surprised when they don't drive it right. A smart woman doesn't do that. She knows her worth is not in how many likes she gets, not in how many people text her back, not in what her bank account says today. Her worth is not attached to status or style or someone else's affection. She knows her worth is rooted, not wavering. It's anchored in her identity, not her productivity. And when she really gets that, when she sits with it, lets it sink in, she starts making different decisions. She stops tolerating disrespect. She stops explaining herself to people who've already made up their minds. She stops overcommitting, overgiving, and overextending. Not because she's cold, but because she's clear. That's what self-worth brings, clarity. And clarity changes everything. When you know your worth, you stop asking for permission to take up space. You stop apologizing for having needs. You stop chasing people who were never meant to be in your life long term. You stop settling for crumbs when you know you deserve the whole damn table. You become selective, not guarded. You become confident, not cocky. You become peaceful, not passive. Because when you know your worth, you don't need noise to feel secure. So here's the challenge. Stop waiting. Stop waiting for someone to finally choose you, respect you, love you the right way, promote you, appreciate you. Stop tying your value to their recognition. The right people won't need convincing, they'll see it. But it starts with you seeing it first. Every time you look in the mirror, remind yourself, I don't need to earn my worth. I own it. Because here's the truth. When a smart woman knows her worth, the world starts to adjust accordingly. Not because she demands it, but because she embodies it. And that's power. Let's talk about something that a lot of people get wrong, emotions. Now, I know the word emotional gets thrown around like an insult, especially toward women, but let me be real with you. Emotions aren't weakness. They're data. They're signals. And for the smart woman, emotions are a tool, not a trap. Here's the deal. Being emotional doesn't mean being out of control. It doesn't mean you cry at every meeting or explode at every offense. It means you feel, and feeling, that's human. But the difference between being driven by emotion and being informed by it, that's where power lives. A smart woman doesn't ignore her feelings. She listens to them, but she doesn't let them lead the whole conversation. She lets them speak, not steer. You get angry? That's a signal. Something's not sitting right. You feel anxious? Your mind's trying to warn you of something. You feel joy? That's a clue about what aligns with your values. Every emotion is trying to tell you something. But here's what separates the smart from the scattered. You don't just react, you respond. And those are two very different things. Reaction is automatic. It's raw. It's often about control, trying to regain it, protect it, or assert it. Response, that's thoughtful. That's intentional. That's someone who takes a breath, assesses what they're feeling, and then chooses the next move. And let me be real, that doesn't come easy, especially when someone hits a nerve, especially when you're tired, stretched thin, or feel like you've had to hold it all together for too long. But that pause, that split second where you choose instead of snap, that's the magic. Smart women don't mute their emotions. They master them. And I don't mean in some robotic, cold, detached way. I mean in the way that allows you to sit in a difficult conversation and still hold your ground. The kind of mastery where you can feel hurt but still speak with clarity. The kind where you're allowed to cry, but you never let those tears cost you your voice. People will try to label emotional women as irrational. That's their misunderstanding. The truth? Emotional intelligence is one of the strongest forms of intelligence there is. Because if you can understand your own emotions and navigate someone else's, you can lead, you can connect, you can influence, and you can protect your peace. Think about how many situations in life require emotional control. That coworker who takes credit for your work. That partner who shuts down when things get real. That family member who triggers your childhood wounds every time they speak. You don't master those situations by going off the rails. You master them by knowing exactly what you feel, why you feel it, and what response will protect your peace without compromising your values. And let's be clear, this doesn't mean you bottle things up. That's not emotional maturity. That's emotional suppression. And that stuff, it leaks out eventually, usually at the worst time. A smart woman knows how to process. She gives herself space to feel. Sometimes that means journaling it out. Sometimes it means going for a walk. Sometimes it means calling someone who doesn't just tell her what she wants to hear, but what she needs to hear. The point is, you don't bury the emotion. You acknowledge it. You investigate it. And then you decide what kind of action honors the best version of you, not just the most wounded version of you. Look, your emotions don't make you weak. Denying them does. Ignoring them does. Being so afraid of them that you let them run wild or stay silent, that's what keeps you stuck. The smart woman owns it all. The anger, the joy, the grief, the excitement, the fear. And she uses those emotions like signals on a dashboard. She doesn't slam the wheel when the check engine light comes on. She pays attention and decides what needs to be adjusted. That's mastery. So the next time someone tries to call you too emotional, take a breath, smile, and know they just admitted they don't understand strength that wears empathy like armor and still walks with fire. Because you're not just emotional. You're emotionally intelligent. And that's what sets you apart. Let's talk about something that changes the game for smart women: boundaries. Now, I know that word can make people uncomfortable. It sounds like conflict. It sounds like confrontation. But I'm here to tell you the truth. Boundaries aren't walls. They're not about keeping people out. They're about protecting what matters within. Think of boundaries like doors with locks. You decide who gets a key. You decide who gets to come in and how far they're allowed to go. That's not being mean. That's being wise. Smart women don't let everyone have equal access. Why? Because their energy is valuable. Their time is limited. Their peace is not up for negotiation. And listen, if you're the kind of person who always says yes, even when you're tired, even when it costs you, this might be a little uncomfortable at first. Because setting boundaries isn't about changing other people. It's about changing how you show up. It's about recognizing when you're overextending, when you're being drained, and when your helpfulness has turned into self-betrayal. Let me say that again for the woman who needs to hear it. Constantly saying yes, even at your own expense, is not kindness. It's self-neglect. And smart women don't shrink themselves to keep other people comfortable. You teach people how to treat you by what you allow. And when you draw a boundary, clearly, calmly, consistently, you send a message. That message is, I respect myself. And if you want to be in my space, you're going to have to respect me too. Now, let's be real. Setting boundaries won't always be received well. Some people benefit from your lack of boundaries. And the minute you create one, they'll push back. They'll guilt you. They'll question your change. They might even call you selfish. Let them. Because every time you honor a boundary, you're telling yourself, I matter. My needs matter. My peace matters. And that message, that builds confidence like nothing else. Look, you don't need to build a fortress. You don't need to cut everyone off. But you do need to have clarity about what's okay and what's not, what you'll tolerate and what you won't, where your line is, and what happens when someone crosses it. Boundaries can sound like this. I'm not available at that time. That doesn't work for me. I'm not comfortable discussing that. I love you, but I won't allow you to speak to me that way. You don't need to justify, over-explain, or apologize. Boundaries are not up for debate. They're statements of self-respect. And here's the thing. The more you practice them, the stronger you get. It's like a muscle. At first, it might feel awkward. You might feel guilt. You might second guess. That's normal. That's your old wiring trying to pull you back into patterns that kept you small. But smart women push through that discomfort, not because it's easy, but because they've tasted what peace feels like, and they refuse to go back to chaos just to keep the peace for everyone else. And when you set boundaries, here's what happens. You gain energy. You think clearer. You breathe easier. You show up more fully because you're not carrying resentment, exhaustion, or silent frustration. Boundaries also make your relationships better. Why? Because they create structure. They invite respect, they remove the guessing game, they keep you honest and others accountable. The people who truly love you, who want what's best for you, they won't walk away when you set boundaries. They'll adjust. They might not get it right at first, but they'll learn. The people who disappear when you start honoring your needs, that's not loss, that's clarity. Let them go. Because here's the bottom line. A smart woman knows that protecting her peace is not optional. It's essential. You don't let chaos live rent-free in your life just because you're afraid of being misunderstood. You choose discomfort in the short term to build a life of peace in the long term. So no, boundaries aren't rude. They're not cold. They're not selfish. They are the most loving thing you can do for yourself and for the people around you. Because when you protect your energy, you're able to show up as your best self. And that version of you, that's who the world needs. Not the burnt out, resentful, exhausted version who's saying yes while screaming no on the inside. Smart women know a boundary isn't rejection, it's direction. It's telling people where the door is, how it opens, and what the rules are when they step inside. And that kind of clarity, that's powerful. Let's get to the point. Communication isn't just about talking, it's about how you talk. And if you want to be a smart woman in today's world, you need to stop over-explaining, stop watering yourself down, and start speaking with clarity, not clutter. Too many women have been taught to soften their words to keep the peace, to smile while making a request, to say, "Sorry, I was just wondering," before speaking a complete sentence. But that kind of communication, it doesn't serve you. It confuses your message, and it gives away your power. A smart woman knows that clarity is kindness, clarity is strength. When she speaks, she doesn't overcompensate. She doesn't dance around her point. She says what she means, and she means what she says. And no, that doesn't mean being harsh. It doesn't mean being cold. It means being direct with respect. It means using words as tools, not weapons. Let's talk about why this matters. Every time you clutter your message with 10 extra words because you're afraid of being too direct, you're sending a signal that your voice needs permission, that you're hoping for approval rather than standing in your authority. You don't need to sound like a robot. You don't need to strip out your tone or your personality. But you do need to be intentional. Because when your message is clear, people listen differently. They respond differently. They respect you differently. Think about the difference between these two statements. "Hey, I'm so sorry. I know you're super busy, and I hate to ask, but I was just wondering if maybe there's a chance you could possibly send me that file when you get a sec." Versus, "Hey, could you please send me that file by noon? Thanks so much." See the difference? One is wrapped in anxiety and apology. The other is clear, confident, and still respectful. Smart women don't shrink in their speech. They don't talk in circles to make sure everyone else is comfortable. They communicate like they value their time and other people's time too. And let's be real, speaking clearly is not just about what you say when you say it. Sometimes the smartest thing you can do is say nothing at all until you've had a moment to think. Because the first reaction isn't always the best one. A pause is powerful. A pause gives you control. Control over your words. Control over your tone. Control over the direction of the conversation. Let me say this loud for the people in the back. You don't need to fill silence with noise. You don't need to explain your every decision like you're in a courtroom on trial. Speak your truth, let it land, and give space for it to echo. Now, here's where it gets even more important. The way you speak to yourself sets the tone for how you speak to the world. If your inner dialogue is messy, insecure, or passive, That's going to show up in your conversations at work, in relationships, in hard decisions. Smart women clean up their inner language first. They shift from, I don't know if I can, to, I'm learning how to. They shift from, I'm probably not qualified, to, I'm capable and growing every day. That shift in mindset creates a shift in speech. And that shift in speech, it creates a shift in your life. Because when you speak with clarity, people don't just hear you. They believe you. They trust you. They follow your lead. And most importantly, you start trusting yourself. Let's be honest. The world doesn't need more noise. It needs more substance. It needs more women who can walk into a room and say what needs to be said clearly, calmly, and without overthinking every syllable. Smart communication isn't loud. It's not about dominating. It's about delivering. It's about knowing your message matters and respecting it enough to say it well. You don't have to yell to be heard. You don't have to be perfect to be effective. But you do have to speak with purpose. So from now on, before you speak, ask yourself, is this clear? Is this necessary? Am I honoring my voice or diluting it? Because when you clean up the clutter in your communication, everything gets easier. Your boundaries are clear. Your relationships are stronger. Your leadership sharpens. And your confidence, it grows because it's built on a foundation of truth. Smart women know that clarity isn't just a skill. It's a standard. And once you raise it, everything around you has to rise with it. Let's talk about consistency because smart women know this is where the real transformation happens. See, anyone can be motivated for a day. Anyone can be disciplined when it's easy. But consistency, that's the difference between a wish and a result. That's where smart women stop dreaming and start doing. Now, here's the truth. Consistency doesn't mean perfection. Let's throw that myth out right now. You're not a machine. Life will throw you curveballs. You'll mess up, miss a step, fall short. That's normal. But smart women, they don't live in the mistake. They reset. They don't say, well, I missed one workout, so I might as well give up. They say, okay, missed one, back at it tomorrow. They don't say, I slipped up on my boundaries, so I must be weak. They say, lesson learned. I'll do better next time. That mindset right there, that bounce back, that's consistency. Because what matters most isn't what you do once in a while. It's what you do over and over. It's those small intentional steps that compound over time. And let me tell you, nobody claps for consistency. It's not flashy, it's not loud, it's not viral, but it's powerful. Consistency is showing up when you don't feel like it. Not because you're motivated, but because you made a commitment. It's choosing discipline over drama. It's deciding that how you want to feel tomorrow is more important than what feels comfortable today. And look, I get it. Consistency can feel boring. It's not exciting to wake up early, keep promises to yourself, or do the hard thing again and again. But you know what's really exciting? Results, confidence, momentum. Smart women don't rely on feelings to get them through because feelings are fleeting. One day you're fired up, the next you're in your head. That's human. But discipline, that's what you fall back on when the motivation fades. Think of consistency like building a muscle. You don't get strong by lifting weights once. You get strong by showing up, even when you're sore, even when progress feels slow, even when no one is watching, because those reps, they're building something. And that something isn't just habits, it's identity. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you reinforce the belief, I'm someone who follows through. Every time you show up again, even after falling off, you're saying, I don't quit on me. That quiet self-trust, that's gold. Let's get practical here. Smart women make consistency easier by setting systems, not just goals. A goal says, I want to get in shape. A system says, I move my body for 30 minutes a day, no matter what. A goal says, I want to be more present. A system says, I put my phone away after 8 p.m. every night because willpower is great, but structure sustains you. And here's the other thing. Smart women give themselves grace while being consistent. This isn't about hustling yourself into burnout. It's about knowing the difference between excuses and rest. One drains you, the other restores you. You're allowed to pause. You're allowed to adjust. But you're not allowed to give up on yourself just because it's hard. You're not allowed to keep rewriting your goals every time they challenge you. You've got more in you than that. Let me tell you, the most confident women I've met aren't the loudest. They're not the flashiest. They're not always the most talented, but they're consistent. They've done the internal work. They've shown up for themselves long enough that now it's who they are. You can't fake that. You can't buy that. You build that. One decision, one habit, one new standard at a time. So if you're asking how to be a smart woman in today's world, this is it. Keep showing up when it's hard, when it's boring, when it's uncomfortable, when no one notices. That's the secret. The results won't be instant, the process won't be perfect, but the life you build from consistency, that's real, that's strong, that's yours. Smart women don't wait for a perfect day to start. They don't let motions run the schedule. They don't look for motivation, they create momentum. And if you fall off track, you get back up. Again and again and again. Because that's not failure. That's what consistency looks like. And that's what makes you unstoppable. Let's talk about the room. The one you walk into every day, whether it's a boardroom, a living room, a group chat, or your own headspace. Smart women know how to walk into that room and own it. Not with arrogance, not with noise, but with presence, with poise, with purpose. See, too often, we're told we have to earn our seat at the table, be quiet, be polite, don't ruffle feathers, don't take up too much space. And for a while, a lot of smart, capable women played by those rules. They made themselves small, hoping their value would still be noticed. But let me say this as clearly as I can. You were never meant to be small. You were meant to stand. A smart woman doesn't wait for permission. She brings her full self to the table. She doesn't shrink her voice to be liked. She doesn't dull her light to make others comfortable. She understands this truth. You don't need to own the room by controlling it. You own it by being anchored in who you are. Now let me be real. Owning the room isn't about walking in with your chin up and a loud voice. It's about walking in already knowing your value before anyone else speaks. It's being grounded, calm, self-aware, and unshakable in your identity. It's the quiet confidence that says, I don't need to prove myself, I'm already enough. That kind of presence, it's felt, not forced. It shows up when you walk into a meeting and speak with clarity, not apology. It shows up when you listen more than you talk, but when you do speak, people listen. It shows up when you look someone in the eye and say no without guilt, or yes without hesitation. Owning the room is about alignment. Your words, your posture, your energy, they all speak for you long before you open your mouth. People can feel whether you believe in yourself. And here's where it gets deep. That kind of presence doesn't come from hype. It comes from doing the work behind the scenes, the personal work, the healing work, the hard, honest conversations you've had with yourself. It comes from knowing who you are when no one's clapping. It comes from showing up in integrity, even when no one's watching. Because the woman who has peace within doesn't need chaos around her to feel important. She knows her worth. And because of that, she doesn't chase validation. She doesn't perform for approval. She doesn't compete with anyone because she knows what she carries. Let me say something that might challenge you a bit. If you constantly feel like you're being overlooked, disrespected, or underestimated, don't just look at the people in the room. Look at how you're showing up. Are you walking in with self-trust or self-doubt? Are you commanding space or hoping someone makes room for you? Smart women build their own space. And when they walk in, they bring value, not ego, because they've done the work to make sure that what they offer isn't just noise, it's necessary. And let's not pretend that owning the room is easy. It takes courage, especially in places where you've been conditioned to play small, especially when you're the only woman, the youngest, the one who looks different, the one who speaks differently. It's in those moments that you have to decide, do I belong here because they invited me, or do I belong here because I chose to walk in? Smart women choose. They choose to take up space, to speak with purpose, to sit up straighter, to make eye contact, to show respect to others. Yes, but also to themselves. Because when you respect yourself, you carry yourself differently. You protect your energy. You don't over-explain. You don't second-guess every word. You stop editing your voice and start owning your voice. That's when you shift. That's when people notice. That's when the room, the energy, the tone, the conversation changes because you walked in. Let me be clear. You don't have to be the loudest in the room to be the leader in the room. Presence is louder than volume. Confidence is quieter than noise. And smart women, they don't just speak with strength. They live with strength. So the next time you walk into a room, ask yourself, am I carrying my full self or just the version I think they want to see? Because the full version, the one who's done the work, the one who knows her worth, the one who speaks clearly and lives with alignment, that's the version the room needs. Own your space, own your tone, own your energy, because when a smart woman walks in the room, everything shifts. And she doesn't have to say a word for everyone to feel it.